Today's target will be dividing polynomials. By the end of today's lesson, you'll be able to divide a polynomial by a monomial and divide a polynomial by a binomial. Important thing to remember, division is simply multiplication in reverse. For example, the division problem, 12 divided by 4, is really asking us 4 times what equals to 12. So rather than thinking about it as 12 divided by 4, we can think about it as 4 times 3 equals to 12. We're going to use that to divide our polynomials. But before we start, let's go back and review our multiplication. If you have not watched the multiplication video, you need to pause this video now, go back and watch the multiplying polynomials video. We're going to use our area model to multiply our polynomials. So we're going to draw our rectangle. Our height is our first term, so we have 4x. And across the top, we have 2x squared, negative 3x, and negative 1. We're going to draw our bars in between each term. And then we're going to go ahead and multiply. So 4 and 2 gives us 6. X and x squared gives us x to the third. 4 and negative 3 gives us negative 12. X and x gives us x squared. And then lastly, 4 and negative 1 gives us negative 4, and we're left with x. So our answer, our polynomial multiplication, is 6x to the third minus 12x squared minus 4x. So that's a review of multiplication. Let's look at how we would do that in reverse. Actually, let's backtrack for a second. And remember that what we start with goes on the outside. So we started with 4x and the trinomial 2x squared minus 3x minus 1. So what you start with goes on the outside, and the inside is your answer. So with that in mind, let's go back and look at our division problem. So we have a trinomial divided by a monomial. So rather than asking this question in division, we could say 2x times what equals to 8x to the third plus 12x squared minus 4x. So if we think about it that way, now we're looking at a multiplication problem. So we're going to draw our rectangle. Our height is 2x, our first term. We don't know what goes across the top, but we know inside our answer is 8x to the third, 12x squared, and a negative 4x. And between each one of those, we're going to separate our terms. So now we can work backwards and figure out, okay, what do we have to start with? So 2x times what gives us 8x to the third? Well, we know 2 times 4 gives us 8. And if x times x squared gives us x to the third. 2x times what gives us 12x squared? 2 times 6 gives us 12, and x times x gives us x squared. 2x times what gives us negative 4x? Negative 2 times 2 gives us negative 4, and we already have our x, so we're done. So what we have here in the red, that's the answer to our division problem. That is the what from our multiplication problem. So to recap, (8x to the third plus 12x squared minus 4x divided by 2x is equal to 4x squared plus 6x minus 2. So today we were dividing a polynomial by a monomial, by a single term, using multiplication in reverse. All right, now let's look, we're going to do another multiplication problem. So here we're going to do a binomial times a binomial. So let's draw our box. We know our first term is the height, so 2x and a positive 4. And then across the top we have x and a negative 5. Between each term, we split it up. So here we've got 4 boxes, and we can do our multiplication. 2x times x gives us 2x squared. 2x times negative 5 gives us negative 10x. 4 times x gives us 4x, and 4 times negative 5 gives us negative 20. So now to write our final answer, we're going to look at our diagonal. 4x minus 10x is negative 6x. So our answer, we're going to grab these guys, and it's going to be 2x squared minus 6x minus 20. So we've seen that before. We've done our area models at this point. So there's our multiplication of two binomials. So let's look at how we would use this to do division. So here we've got a trinomial divided by a binomial. So rather than division, we could look at this and say 3x plus 2 times what equals to 6x squared plus 7x plus 2. So it's our job to find the what. 3x squared plus 2 times what gives us that trinomial. So let's use our area model. Draw our box. We know that our first binomial goes down the side. We do not know what's going to go across the top. So we're going to go ahead. We know that if we end up with a trinomial, if we look back at our multiplication, it's from a binomial times a binomial. So let's go ahead and use the same box that we did in the previous example. And we're going to now you got to follow our steps here. You got to follow closely. We're going to start with our first term. We're going to go ahead and put that in the top box. So now we're going to ask ourselves, 3x times what gives us 6x squared? Well, 3 times 2 gives us 6, and x times x gives us x squared. So that's the first part of the what. Let's use that to multiply back into our answer, into our box. So let's look at 2x times 2, which gives us 4x. Now we know from our multiplication that our diagonal has to add up to the middle term. So 4x plus what gives us 7x? Well, the answer should be 3x. 4x plus 3x gives us 7x. So we take that 3x and we put it here. So now we ask ourselves, 3x times what gives us 3x? Simply 3x times 1 gives us 3x. We put that up top. And then we multiply back through. Say 1 times 2 gives us what? Gives us 2. So now we've got to check. Does this last box match the last number of our answer? If it does, We did it correct, and we know that 2x plus 1 is our solution. So to recap, 6x squared plus 7x plus 2 divided by 3x plus 2 results in 2x plus 1. So hopefully we can see here that we're using the same area model we did for multiplication. We're just doing it in reverse. So the only tricky part here becomes with your diagonal. You've got to make sure that diagonal adds up to the middle term. Let's look at a second example. So let's rewrite it. We've got x plus 5 times something is equal to 2x squared plus 7x minus 15. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw our box. We know that x and 5 goes down the side. Draw our 4 boxes. And then we're going to start by putting our leading term, 2x squared. So that came from here. So that 2x squared got put right there. And so now we can say x times what gives us 2x squared. The answer would be 2x. 2x times x gives us 2x squared. And then multiply back with the bottom one. So 2x and 5 gives us 10x. Okay, so now we got to pause and look at our diagonal. 10x plus what gives us 7x? So 10 plus something gives us 7, so we need a negative 3x. 10 plus a negative 3x gives us 7x. So negative 3x goes here. And we ask ourselves, x times what gives us negative 3x? Well, negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And then lastly, we multiply the negative 3 and the 5. We get negative 15. We check. Does negative 15 match the last part of our answer? It does. So our answer here is 2x minus 3. Okay? So now that you've seen a couple examples, it's your time to try 2 problems. Problem number 1 is dividing by a monomial. So you can go back and look at our first example with division. Problem number 2 is dividing by a binomial. So you might have to look at the previous 2 examples if you're struggling. Go ahead and work through both problems. And when you're finished, you can press play and the answers will come up on your screen. Once you've checked your answers, you are finished for today. If you got them incorrect, make sure you go back, look over your notes, look over the examples, and try to find what you did wrong. Pause your video now. Here are your 2 answers. Answers to number 1 should be 4x to the third minus 5x squared plus 2x. Answer to number 2 should be 2x minus 2. Make sure you check your work. Hopefully you got them both correct. If you didn't, go back, see if you can find where you made your mistake. See everybody in class tomorrow.